Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. Today is Monday, which means we're going to give our reactions to week 2 today. I've got one takeaway per team that's already played. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a great one. We've got some good takes coming up, so go ahead and take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Glad to see you all this morning. Welcome into the chat. Our fearless producer, Dustin. Glad to see you. Andrew, Donald, Alex, Bach, Literature, Ryan, Mark, Elevated Mind, Nobody, Paul. The list goes on. Liv, Toronto Dave. This is crazy. Thanks for popping in this morning. Glad to see you all. I hope you had a fantastic week 2 for your fantasy football teams. And if not, I hope you just had a nice Sunday sitting back, watching some Red Zone, having a good day, watching some football. We had some great games yesterday. We had a great Thursday night, Thursday night football game. We talked about it a little bit on Friday, but we'll kind of give our takeaway from that game as well. And let's go ahead and jump right on into this thing. We've got one takeaway per team. Let's start with the Buffalo Bills, and this is a take that we carried all offseason. All offseason we carried this take. All I want to say. That's all I want to say, right? I have been steadfast in this belief. You know, everyone in fantasy football was like, there's an alpha on Buffalo. It's going to be Dalton Kincaid. It'll be Keon Coleman or something, right? There's going to be an alpha. And I was like, I don't know about that. I really am not so sure. I think that this Bills team doesn't want an alpha. I think Josh Allen is the alpha here. He's going to be asked to run the ball. He's going to ask to be Superman again, because there's not really enough weapons on this team. And I know a lot of people pointed to Dalton Kincaid or what we saw from Keon Coleman in week 1, or just the draft capital they spent on Keon Coleman would make people suggest that, you know, maybe he would be someone that they feed early and often. But we saw, and my argument was that the Chiefs have now won 2 Super Bowls without weapons. And this is like the Bills' biggest thing, right? They tried the Stephon Diggs route. They tried having an alpha that they force-fed the ball to, and it didn't work. And they watched the Chiefs succeed without it, and they probably thought to themselves, Josh Allen can do this. Josh Allen's a stud. Let's just give him good enough receivers that can operate in different areas of the field. Let him divvy it up, find where the open player is, and we'll just play ball. We'll just play ball. Okay, and that's what we're seeing. In week 1, the number 1 target leader was Keon Coleman, who only had 5 targets. Khalil Shakir had 3. James Cook had 3. Matt Collins had 2. Dawson Knox had 2. MVS had 2. Curtis Samuel had 2. Dalton Kincaid had 2. Ray Davis and Ty Johnson both had a target in week 1. And then in week 2, things kind of continue the same, except this time Keon Coleman only gets 1 target. Khalil Shakir gets the 5 targets. Dalton Kincaid gets 4. Ty Johnson gets 2. Curtis Samuel gets 2. Everyone else on the team gets 1, right? Like, it's just like it is fed around. And we talked about it all offseason. That's why we weren't drafting Dalton Kincaid, right? That's why we were only really drafting Josh Allen. And now I might be, you know, I wasn't necessarily fading James Cook, but it was just I didn't overdraft him, I guess. Like, I was just getting him here and there. And I mean, what a game from him on Thursday Night Football. But the big takeaway, and we're going to see it unfold all season long, is that I think we were right in saying that the Buffalo Bills do not have an alpha receiver and they do not need one. So if you have Dalton Kincaid, don't give up. You know I've started off this season, especially last week, kind of shitting on Dalton Kincaid. I'm going to go ahead and say, while there is no alpha in Buffalo, I am encouraged by what I saw in the first half from Dalton Kincaid. He was targeted 4 times, brought in all 4. He did get a knee to the helmet and then wasn't really utilized anymore. So he's going to have weeks, okay? And at the tight end position, that's still fine. So don't give up on him too much. I mean, if you could still maybe sell him for a Brock Bowers, a Trey McBride, or a Kyle Pitts, do it. But he is still, a top 12 tight end, still definitely going to have some spike weeks. But that floor that you were hoping for from Dalton Kincaid is definitely not there, which sucks. But I'm sure we'll still see a couple good games from him and stuff like that. But yeah, no alpha on Buffalo, at least in the receiving department. Josh Allen is the real one. Now, They played the Dolphins in this game. And I mean, we don't really know what's going on with this Dolphins anymore at all. But I think one thing we could say for sure is that Devon Achane is a total stud. Devon Achane is just a stud, a stud, a stud, a stud. 22 carries for 96 yards in this one. Also brought in 7 receptions off of 7 targets for 69 yards and a touchdown. It was the same thing we saw last week as well. He had 7 targets, brought in all 7. He's utilized all over the field, and it was really encouraging to see it in this game, given that he didn't practice much this week. His game time status was in question, and yet he goes out and just looks electric. He looks like the entire Miami Dolphins offense right now, especially without Tua Tagovailoa. They're going to continue to lean on this guy. He's currently the RB2 in fantasy, and he's just a total stud. He's just a total stud, and as long as he's healthy, he's going to continue to be a stud. But I bring that in there because I do want to mention, don't forget the injury concerns. Yes, he's a stud right now. This is what we should have expected. No one's Devon Achane is a bust take was saying that Devon Achane was bad at football. Everyone was fading Devon Achane because of injury concerns, okay? And that could still totally unfold. So I know it's very exciting right now. He's a total stud. He's a stud and a stud and a stud, right? Stud and a half. 3 studs. He's just a stud. But the injury concerns are definitely still there. I know he looked great in this game, played through an injury, but he still definitely is undersized. And I would still be a little concerned if I roster him. If you can sell high, I'm not against it. I know it's crazy to say that, but if you can, like imagine getting like Saquon Barkley plus, maybe getting just a Breece Hall swap or something because of how good he's looking right now, do it. But don't sell low anymore. I mean, like at this point, you've got to get an awesome King's ransom for Devon Achane, but I think you can get it right now. I just want to say he is a stud. He's awesome. No doubts in my mind, but I still do believe the injury concerns are there. So I do still recommend stashing Jalen Wright, for example, and selling high on Devon Achane if you can. But looking like a stud, man. Already 197 receiving yards on the season. Sorry, that was last year. 145 receiving yards on the season and 120 rush yards. No, sorry. He has more than 120 rush yards, right? Or no, he didn't have a lot of rush yards in week 1. That's right. Never mind. Yeah, 120 rush yards. A lot of it coming from this week. Stud season. Devon Achane. What a monster, man. Seriously, just what a monster. Just looks so good. So that's the Thursday Night Football takeaways. Now it's time to get into Sunday's action, and we'll start things off here with the New Orleans Saints. My takeaway from the New Orleans Saints game is not just how good this offense looks. I mean, sure, we could say real quickly, right, like Clint Kubiak, what a guy, right? I mean, like bringing him in as the offensive coordinator, that was something that a lot of people kind of overlooked. You know, he was just a passing games coordinator in San Francisco for only 1 year as well, so it was hard to be like, oh, he's learned a lot from that tree. You know, kind of struggled in Denver, struggled a little bit in Minnesota as well. But man, does this offense in New Orleans look incredible. And yes, Alvin Kamara had 4 touchdowns in this game. So that could be a takeaway, right? Alvin Kamara, 4 touchdowns, what a stud, okay? But that's just what Alvin Kamara does. The true big story from this Saints team, really now 2 weeks in a row, is Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed is also a stud. I mean, we already knew he had speed, right? We knew that he was going to be able to take the top off defenses, but the concern was the consistency. But Derek Carr is looking his way frequently. In this game, 4 targets, brings in all 4 of them for 96 yards and a touchdown. Okay? Awesome stuff. Has so far this year 9 targets, has brought in 7 of them for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's currently sitting as the wide receiver 9 in PPR leagues. It's just incredible. And it doesn't seem like he'll stop there. It's right now, Rashid Shaheed's the wide receiver 1 on the Saints. And it's really not even that close. Chris Olave has not looked that good. Rashid Shaheed keeps outperforming him. And Derek Carr keeps looking Shaheed's way. It's really impressive. Rashid Shaheed signed a really small contract this season. It was like $4 million for 1 year. He's earning himself a much bigger contract going into next season. Looking like a huge, vital part of this Saints offense. Congratulations to everyone that drafted him. Seriously, he's looking like an every week starter, especially in Scott Fishbowl. Awesome stuff from Rashid Shaheed. More than just a deep threat now with that speed. He's just awesome. He's just a really good wide receiver. He's proven it. So congratulations to everyone that drafted him. I got him his rookie season in a dynasty league, so I've been stashing him there, so that's kind of exciting. And yeah, Rashid Shaheed, just a stud. Congratulations. Rashid Shaheed's season is here. Alex is making a good point. They could be using up all their luck at the wrong time. Maybe. I mean, it's seeming like they'll at least be a good offense all season, but definitely like I could easily see the wheels coming off. I mean, it still is very, very early in the year, but still, I mean, it's impressive. And for now, you've just got to be excited. You've just got to be excited. Now, next, we've got the Cowboys in this same game, absolutely embarrassed by the Saints. But should we overreact to it? I don't think so. I don't think so. It just seems the Saints are good. I mean, we already knew they had a good defense, and now the offense is coming together. This NFC South is looking terrifying outside of the Carolina Panthers. The takeaway from this Cowboys game, bad. They looked bad. Not really easy to take a takeaway here. I know Jalen Tolbert had 9 targets and brought in 6 of them for 82 yards, but this is not a Jalen Tolbert show. This is a Cowboys takeaway bit right here, and our takeaway is that CeeDee Lamb is the 101 we deserved. I know right now he's only sitting at wide receiver 16, but it's still early, and yesterday's game, the Cowboys were just in complete disarray, and in week 1, they just completely ran away with it and didn't have to force feed CeeDee Lamb. Over the course of the season, CeeDee Lamb is going to continue to get CeeDee Lamb usage. This game, 4 of 7 for 90 yards and a touchdown. If you had the 101, CeeDee Lamb was the answer, not Christian McCaffrey. Looking awesome so far. Sky's the limit for CeeDee Lamb. On the way to another fantastic season. CeeDee Lamb is the 101 we deserved, right? Brandon Cook's not cooking. The Ryan Flournoy is still happening, guys. Ryan Flournoy is still on the menu. It's still on the menu. Hopefully. So that's the Cowboys takeaway. Just CeeDee Lamb. Not much to take away there, really. Moving on now to the Buccaneers. And man, is Chris Godwin in the slot a magical, beautiful thing. Chris Godwin in the slot, guys, is just incredible. He right now is the wide receiver 1. You heard that right. Chris Godwin right now is the wide receiver 1 in PPR leagues. He is coming off back-to-back 20-point performances, has 47 points on the year, has 16 targets, has brought in 15 of them, has 200 yards exactly, and 2 touchdowns through 2 weeks. His utilization in the slot is real, and the Buccaneers were geniuses to move him back there. Him and Baker Mayfield are going to continue to look like this all season, really. He's going to be a big part of this offense. Chris Godwin back in the slot, a magical thing. The wide receiver 1 right now, and he's probably really not going to slow down. He's going to continue. That's just what he does. He feasts in the slot. Chris Godwin looking incredible there. It really is awesome, awesome news for Chris Godwin managers all over. Chris Godwin's season is here, and he's going to keep it up. Moving on now to the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions takeaway could be that Amon-Ra St. Brown is here, but we all knew it, right? We shouldn't ever have worried about Amon-Ra St. Brown. 11 of 19 for 119 yards. Incredible game for him. But the real takeaway, guys, you already know it. We already know it. Jameson Williams is real. He's an every week starter now. You cannot bench Jameson Williams. He's a stud. He's proven it. Through 2 weeks now, he has 20 targets. He has 20 targets. Let me say that again. Jameson Williams has 20 targets through 2 weeks. He finishes this game 5 of 11 for 79 yards and is currently sitting as the wide receiver 7 through 2 games. Is just a stud's stud. Also has 200 yards receiving off of only 10 receptions and 20 targets so far this season. Congratulations to everyone that listened to me and overexposed themselves to Jameson Williams, drafted him wherever they could, because the breakout was always on the menu, and we're seeing it now. We're seeing it now. J-Mo is a stud. He's real. He's here to stay. Congratulations to everyone that rosters J-Mo. Oh my God, it's incredible. It's just incredible. Just incredible. Now, moving on to the Green Bay Packers. The takeaway from this game, of course, well, and this was a takeaway we kind of had last year too. Probably should have just remembered this. We need to stop getting too worried about backup quarterbacks. Myself included, right? I was on this show talking about how bad Malik Willis would be, how much the Colts would run away with this game, how, you don't want to play a single Packer outside of Josh Jacobs. And I mean, that was kind of the case anyway. I mean, my big takeaway here is Josh Jacobs is a beast. 32 carries, 151 rush yards, doing it all, really putting this team on his back. But again, you just can't fade teams because of backup quarterbacks. I mean, we saw it this week. Malik Willis, fine, 12 of 14, 122 yards and a touchdown, no turnovers. Dontavian Wicks got a touchdown. I mean, he looked good, and they win the damn game. So NFL teams, these are NFL players with NFL coaches. They're going to scheme the plays right. They're going to do what they can with their personnel, and they're going to make games competitive. So don't fade offenses just because the backup quarterback comes in, guys. You just can't do it. A big oversight here. But hey, you know, at least like Jaden Reed still had a quiet game. Christian Watson still had a quiet game. Romeo Doubs was just fine. And it's not like Malik Willis did a lot, but he wasn't bad, which is fine. So anyway, that is the Green Bay Packers takeaway, is that Josh Jacobs is a total beast and going to be a true bell cow at least the next few weeks while Jordan Love is out, and will still be heavily featured when Jordan Love comes back. Moving to the Colts. Is Alec Pierce legit? I actually don't have an answer for that. That's my takeaway. Is Alec Pierce legit? My takeaway is just a question. I can't answer this. I can't answer this question. But we're now talking about Alec Pierce sitting on the leaderboards right now as the wide receiver 8 in PPR leagues. He has 21 points in week 1, 16 points this week. In this game, he had 7 targets, brought in 5 of them for 56 yards and a touchdown. This is now back-to-back weeks with a touchdown. And I mean, you've got to take notice. He's 8 of 10 for over 170 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns through the season. Looking like him and Anthony Richardson have an awesome connection together. I'm blown away. And I'm honestly kind of upset because I loved Alec Pierce coming into the league. Like, he was one of my kind of flag plant rookies. I was like, this athletic profile. He had such a huge amount of the targets, yards, and receiving share in Cincinnati, was a true alpha there. You know, he's going to be a great complement to Michael Pittman on the outside with his speed and his size. Just looks incredible in the athletic profile. And he sucked the last 2 years, so I just gave up on him. I pulled the plug. I gave up on him, especially with the Adonai Mitchell draft pick, right? Like, it was like, okay, Adonai Mitchell is just going to take over for Alec Pierce. It seems that Alec Pierce is legit. Now, jury's still out, probably. I mean, again, it's only 2 weeks, but I mean, it's been a very impressive 2 weeks for Alec Pierce, and I don't think you can write him off. Been the only bright spot in this Colts receiving room. I mean, Michael Pittman has a sub 50% catch rate right now. Anthony Richardson can't get him the damn ball. And Alec Pierce is out there looking like Randy Moss in back-to-back weeks. It's ridiculous. So my takeaway is still a question. Is Alec Pierce legit? I can't answer that. I can't. We'll see it unfold throughout the season. I will say, pick him up. I mean, like, if he's still, like, I think this was one of the players where he had a really big week 1, but the fantasy community was smart. We'll put quotes around it. Smart, and kind of avoided him. Like, you know, he was kind of a fluke play. Like, he's not really that much of a waiver priority. So he actually wasn't picked up in a lot of leagues. He's still out there. If he is, definitely a pickup now. Definitely a pickup now. Probably not in the let's start him range still. But, I mean, again, wide receiver 8 right now. Very impressive start for the year for Alec Pierce. If he can keep it up, I mean, he's going to make some noise in Dynasty for sure if he keeps it up, which is just wild. I'm going to say hold him. I don't even want to say sell him yet because I don't know. Like, again, like, he's still on waiver wires in a lot of leagues. You could probably still get him for really cheap even with this, but I think he's definitely worth holding. I mean, shit, with Anthony Richardson's arm, the deep threat's important, and it seems he's doing everything he can to keep Adonai Mitchell off the field. So it's wild that it's unfolding this way, but it is unfolding this way. So is Alec Pierce legit? I don't know. I can't answer that. I won't even pretend to answer that, but he's definitely worth throwing on your roster now and holding on to and just seeing how it unfolds the rest of the season. Alec Pierce, wide receiver 8 in PPR leagues. Unbelievable. Moving on to the New York Jets, and Breece Hall's a beast. We talked about it at the beginning of the year. My hot take from the New York Jets was that Breece Hall is going to lead all running backs in targets and receptions, and maybe even lead the Jets in targets and receptions. So far, that's coming to fruition. Breece Hall in this game, 14 carries for 62 yards, but 7 of 8 in the receiving game for 52 yards and a touchdown. But is that my takeaway? No, my takeaway is that Breece Hall is a beast, but you need to be rostering Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen is a must roster handcuff plus already. Week 1, he barely saw the field, and I was feeling great about my Breece Hall shares because I was worried this offseason. We saw Braylon Allen look good in the preseason, and he was actually our dynasty RB1 heading into the draft when before we had any of the metrics and the draft capital and anything. So this was a guy who looked incredible in college. And he's demonstrating that in the pros. Braylon Allen in this game, 7 carries for 33 yards, averaging 4.7 on the ground, gets a touchdown, and then has 2 receptions for 23 yards and a touchdown. He scores 2 touchdowns in this game. And that's very concerning. Breece Hall's still going to get his. Don't worry about it, okay? But the fact that Braylon Allen can vulture 2 touchdowns in a game is concerning. It's just concerning. It is. So if you can get Braylon Allen and you have Breece Hall, you definitely have to do it. But it's looking like Braylon Allen is more than just a handcuff. He's looking like a handcuff plus, which is very, very intriguing for managers in dynasty leagues in particular. But even in redraft, he becomes a waiver wire ad and definitely a big stash. Moving to the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans takeaway is that Tony Pollard is him. He does it again. Tony Pollard, guys, we talked about it this offseason. If I were to be drafting a Tennessee Titans running back, it was going to be Tony Pollard. I didn't think the Titans would pay this man that kind of money to barely utilize him. And, you know, I'll be honest, I thought that it was going to be more of a 60-40 split, you know. I was wrong there. I should have been even more optimistic on Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard now back-to-back weeks with an insane snap and utilization share and just looking incredible. The explosiveness is back from a couple seasons ago. In this game, 17 carries for 62 yards and also finds himself 5 of 6 for 40 yards in the receiving game. Incredible usage to see 6 targets to Tyjae Spears 2, 17 carries to Tyjae Spears 6. This is exactly what Tony Pollard managers were hoping for and exactly what Tyjae Spears owners were not hoping for. But this is just what it's going to be. Tony Pollard is that good of a running back, and this Titans team is not good enough, okay? They're just not good enough. So he's going to catch a lot of passes as well. Again, I thought it would be a little bit closer to a 60-40 than it is, so I'll take the L there. But I'm definitely still going to take the win in that I was a Tony Pollard guy. Because so many people, Tyjae Spears was cheaper than Tony Pollard for a large part of the offseason. Or sorry, was more expensive than Tony Pollard. And I was like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Okay. I know a lot of people were in on Tyjae Spears, but there was no reason to be. He's good, but he's not Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's that guy, owns the Tennessee Titans backfield, currently the RB11, back-to-back weeks with over 15 carries, back-to-back weeks with 60 or more yards, looking awesome. Going to be a big part of this offense and continue to be throughout the season. Now, moving on to the Minnesota Vikings, our takeaway here is, of course, imagine fading Justin Jefferson, guys. Imagine. What did we do here on this show? We never faded Justin Jefferson. Am I right, guys? We did our ranking show before Thursday Night Football. We did our finalized top 100 rankings. And where do we have Justin Jefferson? Right there at wide receiver 2. I said he's still got to be a first-round pick. I said he's still a stud. He's Justin fucking Jefferson. And for some reason, we got too cute all over the fantasy football space and decided to fade the best wide receiver in the NFL. It was ridiculous. It was asinine. And I'm so glad to see what's going on in Minnesota with Justin Jefferson. He is sitting right now as the wide receiver 6, back-to-back 15-point games, back-to-back weeks with a touchdown, and finishes this game with only 4 receptions, but has a 97-yard touchdown against the San Francisco 49ers defense. He's just different. He goes into this game saying, respectfully, I'm not Garrett Wilson. Like, such an awesomely cool thing to say, and then he backs it up on the field. Justin Jefferson's just a stud's stud. Just an absolute man. Just a stud, guys. And I can't imagine fading him. It was ridiculous that people were fading him. And I'm so glad and happy I was able to scoop him up at a discount. Congratulations to everyone that did. It's going to be like this all season. He's going to continue to be fed. Definitely keep an eye on the injury, but he said he's fine, so we'll take his word for it. Minnesota Vikings are now 2-0. They're looking awesome. They're not going to stop there. Justin Jefferson's going to continue to be fed. It's awesome stuff. Just imagine. I could not imagine fading him. Congratulations to everyone that did it. Now, moving on to the 49ers. the San Francisco 49ers takeaway is that Jordan Mason looks good, but man, is Deebo Samuel the Christian McCaffrey replacement. This is now back-to-back weeks for Deebo where he gets involved all over the place. In this game, mostly a receiver, but we're now talking about back-to-back weeks with at least 10 touches for him and back-to-back weeks with 100 yards or a touchdown. He looks awesome. Deebo Samuel right now is the wide receiver 11, back-to-back 18-point games. In this one, 8 receptions for 110 yards. Last week, he had 70-something yards and a touchdown, that touchdown coming on the ground. He's being utilized all over the field as a receiver, as a runner. He's getting the ball, doing the yak stuff. This is how the San Francisco 49ers replace Christian McCaffrey. It's Jordan Mason and Deebo Samuel out of the backfield. It's awesome to see. Keep firing up your Deebo Samuel. I would say potentially sell high on him if you can. Christian McCaffrey will come back at some point. And Deebo Samuel does still have his injury concerns, but man, is he a stud and just so much fun to watch. I just love watching Deebo Samuel. But right now, he's looking like the big replacement to Christian McCaffrey, big part of this 49ers offensive game plan going forward, and looking like the wide receiver 1 in San Francisco. Total stud, total dog. Deebo Samuel is him. Moving now to the Seattle Seahawks. Our takeaway from the Seattle Seahawks is just, in general, this is what the offense should look like. We're vindicated in one way, okay? In one way, we say all offseason that Zach Charbonnet is bad and that you need to be getting Kenneth Walker. Unfortunately, we get vindicated week 1. Kenneth Walker, incredible, but then picks up an injury. It sucks, right? Looks terrible. It's awful that he picks up this injury, but then we see Zach Charbonnet not good, right? 14 carries, only 38 yards, averaging 2.7. Not involved really too much in the receiving game. I mean, he gets 5 receptions here, but only 31 yards. Didn't really look that great. Really did not look that great, Zach Charbonnet. So we get some confirmation bias there. Hopefully Kenneth Walker can come back and be a dog. But it doesn't matter, as this could be a good passing offense. This is what they should look like. Ryan Grubb needs to stick to what he's true. Geno Smith, 44 pass attempts. That's awesome. 327 passing yards. That's awesome. Both DK Metcalf and Jaxon Smith-Njigba had over 10 receptions and 100 yards receiving. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, 12 of 16 for 117 yards. DK Metcalf, 10 of 14 for 129 yards and a touchdown. This is what the Seattle Seahawks offense should look like. I hope they continue to look like this all season. And then just imagine how much better they'll look when Kenneth Walker is healthy. If you give those 14 carries to Kenneth Walker, that's at least 70 yards. Like, he at least doubles what Zach Charbonnet put on the ground. This wouldn't have even been a close game if Kenneth Walker was out there. So I'm glad that Geno Smith is back to looking good. And it's awesome to see these pass catchers, especially DK Metcalf and Jaxon Smith-Njigba, getting so involved. This is what the offense needs to look like. I hope they learn their lessons and continue to feed their receivers like this rest of season and use Tyler Lockett like they did in this game, only 2 targets. We want to see it consolidated between Metcalf and Smith-Njigba. It's awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Seattle Seahawks offense looks incredible. I would say if you can get Geno Smith in Superflex for a decent price, do it. I would say. I have been having a take that he'll get benched, but if they're going to continue to let him sling it like this, I don't think he will, because I don't think Sam Howell would do this without turning the ball over. So Geno Smith looking like he's going to kind of hold on to that starter job as well could be a takeaway. But yeah, the Pats are looking incredible. And again, this is why you just can't write off NFL teams in general. You just can't. NFL teams are NFL teams. They're just good. They'll figure out schemes, okay? And it's awesome. They look great. So anyway, next team we'll talk about is the Patriots, right? We'll talk about the Patriots here. And my takeaway is Hunter Henry. We'll see how it translates through the rest of the season, but Hunter Henry, 12 targets in this game, brings in 8 of them for 109 yards. No one else on the team gets more than 2 receptions. It's awful, right? It just all went to Hunter Henry. And I hope that this continues to be the case. That would be a really good value then. If people drafted Hunter Henry and held on to him or something, this is the exact type of usage you were hoping for when you did it. You were hoping that Jacoby Brissett would just lock onto his tight end and not do much more. 8 receptions for 109 yards is an incredible game for anyone, much less a tight end that you got at the end of your fantasy draft. So Hunter Henry's season hopefully is here. The passing offense looked good with them doing this, and I hope that Jacoby Brissett starts to see this game and kind of just trust what he felt and saw from Hunter Henry and uses him as his first read. Could be huge. Hunter Henry, fantastic game. And I think we might see more like this throughout the season. I could see him developing into the safety net. So it's Hunter Henry season, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to the Commanders, our takeaway here is that Brian Robinson Jr. is a stud. This is now back-to-back games where he has the same amount of targets as Austin Ekeler. Now, Austin Ekeler has more receptions and more receiving yards, but they're being targeted to the same amount. And then Brian Robinson is also being utilized heavily as a runner and looks so good. Looks so good. 17 carries for 133 yards. Also gets 3 targets in this game. This is now back-to-back weeks with over 10 carries. He had 40 yards and a touchdown off 12 carries last week. He had 3 receptions for 49 yards to add on top of that. So he's being utilized all over the field, looking like a true bell cow. This is going to be, like we actually talked about, we said time and time again, the best value backfield right now is the Commanders. You can get a true bell cow in Brian Robinson late, and Austin Ekeler is going to be decent enough in PPR leagues. We said that time and time again. We said rookie quarterback, they're going to have to rely on the run game. We said Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury, they've always utilized 2 running backs, Tevin Coleman, Devontae Freeman, James Conner, Chase Edmonds. Both of these guys were going to be pretty useful. But the big takeaway is that Brian Robinson is the man. He's a stud, if you will. So Brian Robinson Jr. looking incredible, going to continue to look credible. We're going to be seeing these 17 carries, 130-yard games a lot this season, but a couple of times he's also going to have touchdowns. No touchdowns in this game, but he should have, and he will. I have a lot of Brian Robinson Jr. I'm going to hold on to my Brian Robinson Jr. He's going to be utilized a lot, looking incredible. And with Jaden Daniels back there, they're going to keep running the ball. The linebackers are frozen, okay? Brian Robinson Jr. looking like one of the best values of fantasy drafts. Total stud. Congratulations to Brian Robinson drafters. Now we have the New York Giants. The New York Giants takeaway is an easy one. I'm sure you know where we're going here, and that is Malik Neighbors, guys. The Giants look good when they feed their pass catcher, Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors finishes this game with 18 targets. He should not have less than 18 targets all season. He brings in 10 of them for 127 yards and a touchdown and made Daniel Jones actually look okay. Daniel Jones, 16-28, 178 and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Also added 32 yards on the ground. He looked okay. Now, still probably going to end up losing the job by the end of the season. Again, that injury guarantee is bad to have if a team has already kind of moved on from you. But when Malik Neighbors is on fire like this, it just helps the rest of the offense. Devin Singletary, 95 rush yards and a touchdown as well. Malik Neighbors' breakout is upon us, sitting as the wide receiver 3 right now in PPR leagues after putting up 29 points this week. Looks like a total stud. Just a monster. 10 receptions for 127 yards and a touchdown. Just a great game. I know this was the Commanders' defense, which is not good, so we'll see what he looks like against a good defense. But even in week 1, he had 5 receptions. So he's being utilized a lot. And I think that this game is going to continue to unlock Malik Neighbors. This has made the Giants be like, okay, we really do have a playmaker here. We need to keep feeding him. Malik Neighbors is a stud. Going to be a stud all season. Lock him into your lineups in PPR leagues every single week. Malik Neighbors, stud. Now, the Los Angeles Chargers. Quentin Johnston is the takeaway here. Quentin Johnston, ? We talked about it this offseason. I had a lot of people asking me what I'm doing with Quentin Johnston, and I said I'm holding. I'm not dropping Quentin Johnston. I'm not selling Quentin Johnston. I'm not believing in Quentin Johnston, but we had to look at what the Chargers were putting together, and that was a competent team. Jim Harbaugh coming in just means competence. And a lot of the failure for Quentin Johnston last season was A, because the Chargers were in complete disarray, but because Brandon Staley and Kellen Moore didn't know how to scheme him, didn't know how to properly utilize him. They just put him in the Mike Williams role, tried to make him a downfield receiver. He's not that. He's a short route running receiver with yak ability, can maybe do some intermediate stuff a little bit if he can get open, but he's not that much of a route runner. He can do a few things. And Jim Harbaugh knows that he could only do a few things. So they'll just ask him to do those few things he's good at, like a good coach should do. And Quentin Johnston is now tied with Ladd McConkey for targets on this team. They both have 11 through 2 weeks. And in this game, he brings in 5 of 6 targets for 51 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, the takeaway is Quentin Johnston ? Because I know a lot of people are saying Quentin Johnston is here. And while I said that I was never off of Quentin Johnston, I also said I'm not on Quentin Johnston. I'm still not in on Quentin Johnston. We still need to pump brakes. My take ended with hold on to Quentin Johnston because you're going to be able to sell him at some point. And that's what you should do. You should sell Quentin Johnston off of this week if you can. Because here's the deal. It's a low pass volume offense, and he's not going to score 2 touchdowns. Again, probably. Okay? He is a roster clogger. You're never, ever going to know when to start Quentin Johnston. You just won't. And you're never going to feel comfortable if he actually is in your lineup. So if you can get a decent haul for him right now after this 2-touchdown performance, do it. I know he's attached to Justin Herbert. I know it's scary to move on from an asset like that, but Ladd McConkey's still there. Josh Palmer's still there, and they still run the ball a ton. If you can sell Quentin Johnston off this 2-touchdown performance, you should do it. There might be other weeks like this, 6 receptions and a touchdown, right? Like I said, he's just being utilized properly. And that just means he'll be okay. He'll be okay. And that's fine. But I don't think that he's turned into this good performance now, right? You know what I mean? And this is a great comment from the Fantasy Plumber. If you like Quentin Johnston, you should love Yoshevich, same performance. Now, not the same performance. Andre Yoshevich only had 7 yards and 2 receptions, and those 2 receptions were touchdowns. Quentin Johnston had 5 receptions and 51 yards, and also in back-to-back weeks now has had at least 5 targets, where Andre Yoshevich hasn't done that. But still, operating kind of in the same role type of thing, can score the touchdowns here and there. But yes, definitely sell QJ if you can. Moving on to the Carolina Panthers. I don't even really have a takeaway. We'll talk about a few things here, but the big, takeaway, just sorry. I'm just so sorry. I feel bad. I just feel bad for the Panthers. I don't know. It is sad to watch them. There's that clip going around where Bryce Young throws the interception and just starts crying. You just gotta feel bad. I just feel so bad for this football team, and my heart goes out to Bryce Young. Just an awful offensive line. Not a great scheme. The weapons, not good. It's just abysmal in Carolina. That trade for Bryce Young ruined him. I don't even think Bryce Young's a bad quarterback. I really don't. Even watching these bad performances, I just think it's the Panthers. I think they're just terrible. I think that if they kept DJ Moore, they would be fine. If they just kept DJ Moore, they might honestly be fine, right? Or just didn't give up the haul that they did, right? If they were just somehow able to get Bryce Young without giving up what they did. Because, it's just so bad. Yeah, this is what, yes. You know what, Fantasy Plumber? We can laugh at David Tepper because this is a guy I hate. We actually had a whole episode on him last year while we were still while Wake and Take was in its growth period. We didn't even talk football in this episode. We just had a make fun of David Tepper episode, and we hate him. This is a guy that is the definition of a man-child, a baby. He's a baby. David Tepper is just a literal infant, okay? There's a hilarious story going around where before David Tepper got his money, he was a consultant for some stock brokerage or whatever, and he didn't get a promotion, okay? He didn't get a promotion, and so he quit and started his own firm, to kind of give back at him. And you know what? Good for him. He did get back at him. But then he bought the manager that didn't give him the promotion's mansion a few seasons ago off of after he got divorced. He bought it off of his ex-wife just to tear it down and build a mansion 2 times the size on that land. It is just so petty. Throwing drinks at people, throwing ice from the suite. This guy's just an asshole, has no accountability. And that has clearly shown in the way he owns and manages this team. It's just terribly put together, and you've just got to feel bad for Bryce Young and this offense. Good news. Chuba Hubbard looked okay this week. 10 carries for 64 yards, 4 receptions. That's the type of usage you were hoping for Chuba Hubbard, so hopefully he can keep that up. But otherwise, we've just got to feel terrible for the Carolina Panthers. It's just got to be awful. Awful if you're a fan. Oh, God. I just feel so bad. Anyway, moving on to the Browns. For a team I don't feel bad for, especially for Deshaun Watson, but they win this game. And this is what I was talking about. We talked about benching Trevor Lawrence. You know, anytime I was asked if we should start Brian Thomas Jr., which I will get into that. I was a little bit wrong there. But I was like, this Browns defense, they're still good. They were one of the best defenses in the NFL last year. And I know they had a weird week 1 against the Cowboys, but a lot of that was just because the offense fell flat and they were giving the Cowboys short yardage. You know, they had a punt return touchdown. So that wasn't the Browns defense being bad. So a lot of people gave up on the Browns as a whole. And I said, don't do that. You can give up on the offense all you want, but this Browns defense is still dangerous. They got dropped in one of my FFPC leagues with the Harry Snowman. Shout out to Harry Snowman. So we picked up the Cleveland defense in an FFPC league. High stakes players gave up on the Browns defense. It was ridiculous. And we saw why you shouldn't. Now, I know the Jaguars are kind of in disarray. You know, they don't look that great either, but they held them to 13 points. And really that 13 points, it doesn't even tell the whole story. I mean, this was a dominant defensive performance from the Cleveland Browns. So that's what you just can't give up after 1 week, essentially. We have a few of those don't overreact to week 1 reactions. This is one of those. The offense, not bad either. I mean, not good. Okay, Deshaun Watson only 186 pass yards, but gets the rushing touchdown. Jerry Jeudy, 5 receptions for 73 yards. Elijah Moore, 6 receptions for 44 yards. Jerome Ford, 7 carries for 64. So that was awesome. But yeah, Browns, you can't give up on that defense. This is what happened to them last year. I mean, remember how often Joe Flacco was turning the ball over, but the Browns were still winning because of their defense? That's this team. They're back. Don't give up on this defense. This is a tough matchup. You never really, you should be scared if your players go up against the Browns guys. I'm glad that they kind of cemented that here in this week. They're back to normal. Browns defense, they're awesome. Don't give up on them. But as mentioned, as teased a little bit, Brian Thomas Jr., guys, we talked about it after week 1. I mean, this is a player who is a stud, but this is a tough matchup again, right? The Cleveland defense is nothing to scoff at. But Brian Thomas Jr., 2 receptions for 94 yards, gets 4 targets. This is now back-to-back weeks where he was fantasy viable as a rookie. That's all you need to see. Brian Thomas Jr. is him, guys. Congratulations to anyone that drafted him. He has a really high ceiling. This is only the beginning. Christian Kirk is barely being utilized. He has 1 reception for -1 yards. Evan Ingram's dinged up. Gabe Davis is the only other guy there. Brian Thomas Jr. is the wide receiver 1 already in Jacksonville, looking like a stud. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff from Brian Thomas Jr. He is him, and he's here to stay. Now, the next team to talk about here, the Las Vegas Raiders. Another one I guess I have to apologize for. I thought for sure that the Ravens would be able to run away with this game, and I'm really surprised that they did it. But they did it, and that's the NFL, the Raiders. They just play football. This is what we talked about. We had a sneaky offenses episode, and I said the Raiders, they're really a sneaky team in general. They're just scrappy. They're tough to beat. And man, did they give it to the Ravens on both sides of the ball, really. In the pass game, mostly, too. Their leading rusher, Zamir White, 9 carries for 24 yards. Next is Alexander Madison with 4 carries for 1 yard. So that's good for Zamir White owners. I traded for Zamir White last week because I don't believe in Alexander Madison. You know, I didn't get much confirmation bias, but, you know, the utilization still went to Zamir, and that's a tough defense to run against. So Zamir White still looking like the main guy there, which is good. But the big takeaway is welcome to the 2024 season, Davante Adams. Very quiet in week 1, outperformed by Brock Bowers. But this week he's back. He gets 12 targets. He gets 9 receptions. He gets 110 yards. He gets the game-tying touchdown. Davante Adams is back. He has unlocked himself for the 2024 season, and it's awesome to see. I was very concerned because I drafted him in Scott Fishbowl. I thought he would be utilized a ton. And then I saw Brock Bowers lead the team in targets, who, by the way, 9 of 9 for 98 yards. If you have Sam Laporta, you should be swapping for Brock Bowers if you can. Really, really, if you can. If you can swap Sam Laporta for Brock Bowers, do it. This is going to be one of my biggest L's of the offseason. I was fading Brock Bowers for a rookie. I was like, I feel like at the very least there's going to be another buying opportunity. I find it very hard that Brock Bowers is going to be able to break out. Michael Mayer is a good tight end. Devontae Adams is there. Like it seems like it'll be a run-heavy game and team. Like, I don't know if I really am in on Brock Bowers as a rookie. I never gave up on Brock Bowers in Dynasty, right? Like, I was like, I still want to buy him when the opportunity arises, but I was a dumbass. I'll go ahead and say it. I was stupid for thinking there would be a buying opportunity for this good of a tight end, okay? He just looks incredible. He's a huge part of this Raiders game plan immediately. And I feel so stupid for missing this one. I'm not going to lie. This is already, like, I think we can already say that this is my biggest L of the season. And I'll take it, right? Like, I deserve to take the L here. He was a great value in redraft, He was going after David Njoku and Evan Ingram, after George Kittle, going around the same ranges like Dalton Schultz and stuff. Dallas Goedert, 9 targets, 9 receptions, 98 yards. He's leading the team in targets and receptions through 2 weeks, being utilized all over. Brock Bowers is a total stud. God, man, I have no Brock Bowers shares. I feel awful. I have Brock Bowers shares in the pre-draft underdog. He was my most exposed player there. I drafted him a ton heading into the draft because I was in on him before the landing spot. So that's a takeaway for me. Yes, landing spot is important, but if you're that good of a player, even a bad landing spot can be good. Okay, so that's going to be one thing we learned. Brock Bowers is my biggest L of the season. We're already accepting it. I don't think I have another L. Maybe my Jordan Mason fade, but we're still holding out. We'll see. I mean, I was wrong on Jordan Mason too, but a backup running back, it's early in the season. My take was always, I want my backup running back to break out at the back of the season. So we'll say that wasn't too bad. Maybe. I don't know. But Brock Bowers fading him, that was a big mistake. Just a total stud. The foot scared me away too, Bach. He scared me away too. He's a tweener. Like, there were so many things to me that stacked against him for an early breakout. Again, like I said, I just wanted to buy him back later. So yeah. Anyway, man. Ravens. What do we have for the Ravens? Well, this is why you don't overreact to week 1. Do you know how many people and how much hate I was getting for saying to sell Isaiah Likely last week? So much. So many people. Comments on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube comments. You guys, some of you guys in the chat, although I don't see any of you today. I don't see any of the haters today. All I was saying was just like, seriously, it's so easy. It was so easy. Mark Andrews ran more routes, was in the play for more snaps. He was just hurt. So why were we? I saw people giving up first-round picks for Isaiah Likely. We talked about it on Wednesday's Market Watch. Isaiah Likely moved all the way up to tight end 6 in Dynasty ahead of TJ Hawkinson, right around the range of Kyle Pitts. It was ridiculous. He went ahead of Mark Andrews in Dynasty. And I was like, this is going to be the biggest mistake. This was so stupid. So stupid. It was so easy to see that it was a game script thing. Mark Andrews was taken away and wasn't 100%, so Isaiah Likely was boosted up in the game plan. And Isaiah Likely's going to have weeks again, but that was going to be his best week. It was ridiculous. Zay Flowers, 7 receptions, 91 yards, and a touchdown. Mark Andrews, 4 receptions off of 5 targets for 51 yards. Isaiah Likely, 2 of 3, 26 yards. That is what you should expect from Isaiah Likely this season. He's still going to be utilized. He's a wide receiver too, technically, right? Like, target 3. Okay? Like, he's utilized. He's a part of this game plan, and he's a good receiver. But it's already a low pass volume offense, and he is behind Mark Andrews. Like, what were we doing? Oh my God, that was so frustrating last week. I'm sorry. Like, I was so frustrated last week seeing all these Isaiah Likely overreactions. So I'm glad that it's done. I'm glad that we're reminded. Don't use this as a buying opportunity for Isaiah Likely. You're stuck holding the bag now. Oh, well. But that's what you get. You don't overreact to week 1 like that. You only overreact to week 1 if you're me and you were right in the offseason. Jameson Williams, Bills alpha, right? Like, that's the only way you could be like, all right, in week 1, we saw it. Jameson Williams, he's a stud. We can go ahead and victory lap that. Week 1 for the Bills, we could see they spread the ball around. We could already victory lap that. But man, the 1 week Mark Andrews fade, Isaiah Likely bump up, that was just ridiculous. That was just ridiculous. Man, that was so funny. But it's over now. Congratulations to anyone that bought low on Mark Andrews. You probably still can, to be honest. You probably still can buy low on Mark Andrews. He didn't look that great. But yeah, pour one out for Isaiah Likely. Moving on now to the Rams. Disappointing. Keep your eye on the Cooper Kupp injury, but it really didn't matter. I mean, Cooper Kupp wasn't doing well even before his injury, so that was definitely a concern. But man, do the Rams need an alpha receiver. This was putrid. Matthew Stafford, 19 of 27, 216 pass yards, no turnovers, no touchdowns. Cooper Kupp, only 6 targets, brought in 4 of them for 37 yards before his injury. No one on the team has more than 4 receptions. Kyren Williams only averaged 2.1 yards per carry. Blake Corum mixed in. This Rams offense was just putrid. They need an alpha. If Cooper Kupp is out next week, like if this is a bad injury for Cooper Kupp, if he misses any time, all the Rams become fades. I don't care. I'm not starting DeMarcus Robinson. I'm not starting Jordan Whittington. I'm not starting Tyler Johnson. You might still pick up Jordan Whittington. He should get utilized. I'm sure they could figure out something creative for him, given the type of player he is. But this Rams offense is going to be awful without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. And I feel awful. I have a lot of like Cooper Kupp shares, a decent amount of Matthew Stafford shares as well. I was in on this Rams team, and it is falling apart quickly. And I'm not hopeful. I am not hopeful. But hopefully the injury is okay. Anyway, hopefully it's okay. Keep your eye on the Kupp injury. Now moving on to the Cardinals. Man. Talk about another week 1 overreaction. The Marvin Harrison Jr. fade. That was another one that was just so disrespectful. We talked about it here. Don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. You know? He was a rookie. It was week 1. The Bills, part of their defensive game plan was to take him away. The Cardinals' offensive game plan was the short dink and dunk Greg Dortch stuff. Now what do we see? His first 2 receptions in this game were a touchdown. Marvin Harrison Jr. looked incredible in this game. 4 of 8, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Hit 20 miles per hour. He's fast, guys. He's not slow. He's fast. He's awesome. He's a stud. So congratulations to anyone that bought into him. This is another player that was way too much of a fade last week, way too much of an overreaction to move on from him. I still started him everywhere I had him. He was in my lineup on the teams I had him. He's awesome, guys. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. Disrespectful to fade this guy. Come on, seriously. Marvin Harrison Jr., total stud. Congratulations to everyone. Him and Malik Neighbors, they're here. They're not going anywhere. They might both finish top 10. I am feeling bad. Like you guys said, my take was that Marvin Harrison Jr. My hot take for the year on the Cardinals was that he breaks the rookie receiving record, like gets a ton of targets and stuff, wins Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's going to be neck and neck between him and Malik Neighbors. Really, both of them are going to be studs all season, but Malik Neighbors is getting way more targets right now. So we'll see. Either way, this Cardinals offense looks awesome. As you guys know, I predicted them to win the NFC West. Things are looking good so far. The 49ers just lost to the damn Vikings, and the Cardinals brought it to the Bills, absolutely embarrassed the Rams. Marvin Harrison Jr. is unlocked now. Arizona Cardinals, baby. Let's go. Wild card. Moving on now, once my camera comes back, if it comes back. Moving on now to the next team. We've got the Pittsburgh Steelers, guys. Another victory lap. We've got to just victory lap this. Because all offseason, what did I say? Get Justin Fields on your team. Do not fade Justin Fields. Justin Fields. All I said this offseason was Justin Fields. Russell Wilson isn't getting this job back. He's not. Justin Fields doesn't even look that great. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I told you guys Justin Fields would get it together. No. All I ever said was that Justin Fields in the Arthur Smith offense is perfect. That's what I wanted the Falcons to do. I wanted the Falcons to keep Arthur Smith and bring in Justin Fields instead of firing Arthur Smith and paying Kirk Cousins and doing whatever the hell they were doing. I think the Falcons will get it together, don't get me wrong, but I still think the plus move was to just throw Justin Fields into that offense. This is what it looks like. It's a slow, methodical offense. As long as you don't turn the ball over, you're good. Justin Fields, 8 carries for 27 yards, so not even that great on the ground, but 13 of 20 in the pass game, 117 yards, a passing touchdown, no turnovers in back-to-back weeks, now 2-0. This is all Arthur Smith wants from his quarterback, and he's giving it to him. Russell Wilson can't run the offense like this. It would be a totally different offense. It would be much more pocket passing, a lot less carries. Justin Fields, he's the starter in Pittsburgh. If you can still get him for a cheaper price, then do it. You can't. No, he fumbled. Jaylen Warren recovered it. He did fumble, but Jaylen Warren recovered it. So no lost, no turnovers. But anyway, Fields is only going to get better from here, as Harry Snowman says in the chat. Again, like, he wasn't really starting at all. Like, throughout training camp, throughout preseason, he was always behind Russell Wilson. So he didn't have as much practice with the first team. He's just working out the kinks. This is going to be a very fun offense to watch. He's going to eventually have that 100 rush yard, 2 rushing touchdown game as well. It's coming, guys. Justin Fields is here. Russell Wilson's not getting the job back. It's over. Moving on now to the Denver Broncos. I'm sorry. This is another one where I maybe overreacted to week 1. I, all offseason, was fading the Broncos backfield. I was like, you don't want a single one. You don't want Javonte Williams. You don't want Jaleel McLaughlin. You don't want Audric Estime. This is going to be a really bad offense. The run game's not going to get utilized. There's just no point. Wait for one to surface and show themselves that they're the one you want. So last week, Jaleel McLaughlin, he came out. He had 5 receptions. He had 10 carries. He looked like the running back that you want on Denver. So I was like, hey, go get Jaleel McLaughlin, because this Broncos offense is going to be bad. And when it's bad, that just means Jaleel McLaughlin's going to get some receptions. He'll be the running back you want in Denver. He's not too expensive. Go ahead and get him. All offseason, I was fading the running backs. I said I didn't want a single one. And then in week 1, I changed my tune immediately. I was like, let's get Jaleel McLaughlin. He looks like the one you want. He's going to catch some passes. He'll be good in PPR. Nope. Absolutely not. In this game, Jaleel McLaughlin gets 3 carries for 6 yards and doesn't get a single target. Not a single target. So it's over. Again, it's just, it's over. I mean, I guess Javonte Williams now. 5 receptions on 5 targets, 48 yards, 11 carries. He is the one you wanted, I guess. I don't know. Again, I'm just going back. I'm not going to try to predict this backfield anymore. I was wrong, or I was right all offseason that you don't want a running back. I was wrong week 1 saying you want Jaleel McLaughlin. Now I'm just back. Now you don't want a running back. Even with this Javonte Williams usage, you don't want him. That's not consistent. We saw it in week 1. It was Jaleel McLaughlin. Now this week it's Javonte Williams. It might be Javonte again, but this offense is so bad you don't want one. Just don't worry about it. You don't want a Broncos running back. I was right all along, and I'm sorry for overreacting to week 1 as it pertains to Jaleel McLaughlin. I thought he ended up being a PPR back, but he's not. So now we have the Chiefs takeaway, and man, oh man, is Travis Kelce dust. This is now 2 weeks where Travis Kelce is non-existent in the game plan, and it's been 2 weeks where, they're good games. It's not like the Chiefs are running away with it and not using Travis Kelce. No, the Chiefs are playing from behind in this game. The Chiefs are, in a shootout against the Ravens last week, and Travis Kelce's just not being utilized. Travis Kelce, I am afraid to say it, but he might just be dust. In last week, he was outproduced by Noah Gray. This week, he was outproduced by Jared Wiley. Jared Wiley, 1 reception, 7 yards. Travis Kelce, 1 reception, 5 yards. Travis Kelce this season only has 4 receptions for 39 yards and no touchdowns. Terrifying. So I don't know what to say. I mean, you've got to hold on to Travis Kelce. Like I'm saying with Dalton Kincaid, I still think you need to hold on to these guys. I still think a Travis Kelce game has to happen at some point. Now, I will say this. We were fading Travis Kelce in that regard. We were fading Dalton Kincaid. We were. I was saying don't draft those guys. In fact, Travis Kelce was my prediction for biggest bust at the tight end position this year. So we're okay there. We're slightly victory lapping this. But I also want to say don't go too far. Hold on to these guys. They still have the high ceilings. They'll still have the spike weeks, I'm sure. As Fantasy Plumber says, being Dustin, being underutilized are two different things. And I think that is probably the case here. I do think that Travis Kelce is more so being underutilized, which is why we were fading him, right? We didn't fade him because of age. I didn't care about that. We faded him because, like we saw last year, the Chiefs don't utilize him until the end of the year, really in the playoffs. They want to make sure he stays healthy. So these first few weeks of the season, they don't mean as much for the Chiefs, so they don't mean as much for Travis Kelce. I'm sure he will still, as Bach says, get into playing shape and not Taylor Swifty shape. Maybe he'll start being utilized more, but still concerning to say the least. But I also want to say don't get rid of him unless you get a nice trade. Like if someone comes to you and it's like, all right, I'll give you Kyle Pitts for Travis Kelce, do it. But Mark Rebler is right. It is also possible that football is down on the list. I mean, this is third for him now, right? Like it's probably his podcast is number one or Taylor Swift. Like those two things probably take precedent. Probably takes precedent. So anyway, well, the S-Box, I would like to push back a little bit. He had 3 targets in this game, only brought in one of them. But like I'm saying, I'm not saying get rid of Travis Kelce, but I definitely would be concerned because you have to start him. And then he's putting up 2 points. So it's concerning. He's now outproduced in back-to-back weeks by his backups. Noah Gray last week, Jared Wiley this week. It's just concerning is all I'm saying. It's very concerning. And it's especially concerning when Mike Gesicki looks as good as he does. So I've already taken the L lap on Jelani Woods, who I'm not giving up on in Dynasty. I'm never giving up on Jelani Woods. I just can't do it. I've gone too far. But after Jelani Woods went down, my next sleeper tight end flag plant was Mike Gesicki. Thank God. Thank God that one is working. Last week, he looked actually good. He almost had a touchdown, dropped it. Weird game for the Bengals. But this week, he was my starting tight end. I said it in the Wake and Take on Sunday. I said, start Mike Gesicki if you have him. I don't know why it came to me, why I was so in on Mike Gesicki this year, but I was. In this game, 9 targets. Brings in 7 of them for 91 yards. Looks like he has the Tyler Boyd role used in that big slot. Heavily featured in this offense. And the tight end position is, Eric All, 4 receptions. Drew Sample, 3 receptions. Really fun stuff coming from the Bengals tight end room. And Mike Gesicki's athleticism is finally being utilized. This is what I said, right? My comparison was Evan Ingram, where Evan Ingram just wasn't on a good team in New York. Mike Gesicki just hadn't been on the right team. But landing in Cincinnati, where we've seen 3 straight seasons of fantasy tight end production, at least in the back end, I felt that his athleticism would at least make him a mid-range tight end. And we're seeing it unfold before our very eyes. So Mike Gesicki looking good. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Mike Gesicki season, ladies and gentlemen. If you have him, hold on to him. If you can buy him for a cheap price still, do it. I like Mike Gesicki a lot in this offense, especially while T. Higgins is still out. Now, moving on to Sunday Night Football, our takeaway from the Houston Texans. I'm feeling shaky on my Tank Dell hope, right? Feeling very shaky on my Tank Dell hope. We were in 2 parts for this Texans offense. After Stephon Diggs was brought in, everyone was fading Nico Collins. And I was like, guys, do not fade Nico Collins. He's still a stud. He's still the wide receiver 1 in Houston. And I was right there. I was very much in on Nico Collins when no one else was. But then the market started to catch up. Nico Collins ended up being the clear and away favorite pick out of the Houston Texans wide receiver. He started going in the 2nd round. And I was like, well, I don't know about all that. Still love Nico Collins. Still want Nico Collins. Still not selling Nico Collins. But not necessarily drafting him there. I would much rather take Tank Dell 3-4 rounds later. So I don't know. my reasoning there was that I felt all three of these Texans receivers would be able to feast because we saw it, right? We did the math. Last year, Stephon Diggs had a 30% target share. Nico Collins and Tank Dell both about had 22%. So if you added up their target shares last year, you still only got 75% between the three, and they were all super productive. So I thought that could continue. But now through 2 weeks, it has seen the odd man out being Tank Dell. Tank Dell in this game has 1 reception for -3 yards. He does have 3 carries for some positive yards, so he gets some production there. But this is now back-to-back weeks for Tank Dell where he does not look good. This week, 1 reception, -3 yards. Last week, 3 receptions for 40 yards. I'm concerned, but not too concerned. I'm still going to be firing up Tank Dell. I'm still trading for Tank Dell. If you can get Tank Dell for a reasonable price, definitely do it. There will still be Tank Dell weeks, but it's seeming that Nico Collins is the wide receiver 1 by far on this offense. He's the first read by far. And I thought, that CJ Stroud's love for Tank Dell would translate to the field, and I'm sure it will, here and there. But I really thought that Tank Dell would be a safety net. And Stephon Diggs was who I was fading, to be clear. No, it's Nico Collins is really the Texans receiver you wanted. If you were able to sell Stephon Diggs last week off of his 2 touchdowns, congratulations. And then Tank Dell, you've just got to hold on to him. You can buy him too. I'm going to call Tank Dell a buy now for sure. Buy Tank Dell. This is definitely the worst game he'll have this season. 1 reception for -3 yards shouldn't happen at all. But I'm concerned. May have been wrong. We'll see. While we're here, I guess the S-Box is asking, do you stash Dalton Schultz or just get rid of him? If you could get like Mike Gesicki plus, I would do it. Depends, though. Now, the final takeaway for the Bears. We'll go ahead and soft victory lap this. There's still a long season ahead, but one of my bigger takes from the Bears this offseason was to sell Caleb Williams before he plays. He was so hyped up. We had the CJ Stroud effect, right? Caleb Williams was valued as the dynasty quarterback 8, ahead of Jordan Love, ahead of Kyler Murray, ahead of Jaden Daniels, ahead of all the rookie quarterbacks, ahead of Justin Herbert, ahead of Trevor Lawrence. And my take all offseason was if you've got Caleb Williams, you need to sell him before it's too late. That there would be another Caleb Williams buying opportunity because Matt Eberflus can't develop quarterbacks because Shane Waldron is not a good offensive coordinator. And I was like, well, and everyone was like, oh, well, he's got all the receivers, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore. Yes, that's true. That helps. That's why you still want Caleb Williams, but he was still overvalued. He should not have been going where he was, especially in Dynasty. In redraft, give or take, I understood the ceiling argument, but at the very least, he shouldn't have been going ahead of Jaden Daniels. That never should have happened. We talked about it. Harry Snowman was a big part of this, kind of bringing it to light. The Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passing quarterback for a reason. It's more than just they haven't had a good quarterback. It's tough to play in Chicago in the winter is a big part of it. And then just it just seems to be cursed. Like this Bears team just seems to be cursed in the quarterback department. And I didn't get why we were hyping up Caleb Williams so much. I got a lot of hate. Warranted. I get it, right? Like, how could you fade Caleb Williams, right? How could you, right? Caleb Williams, you're talking about. You wanted to fade him? You wanted to sell him this offseason? Yes, I did. Because we were valuing him as if he's already played football, and not just as if we were already playing football, but as if he had already succeeded. And it's just so hard to succeed as a rookie quarterback, much less when your quarterback coach or your coordinator is Shane Waldron and your head coach is Matt Eberflus. Keeping that coaching staff was awful. I know their defense looks good, but that's because Matt Eberflus is a good defensive coordinator. He's a great defensive coordinator. I'm not taking that away from him. But it's clear he can't develop a quarterback, and it's clear that Shane Waldron's not a great offensive coordinator either. There should be no scenario where DJ Moore has 6 receptions for only 53 yards, right? Absolutely no scenario. So Caleb Williams now back-to-back weeks with no touchdowns. Back-to-back weeks looking bad in the passing department. And now you've just got to hold him, which is fine. I want to be clear. I'm not fading Caleb Williams. I was fading Caleb Williams' price heading into the season. Now I'm sure the market is correct. Now I'm sure he's valued how he should be. Now maybe it's the buying opportunity. Maybe you want to go buy Caleb Williams. I don't know. But the fact that you could have gotten Jaden Daniels plus for him was ridiculous. The fact that you could have gotten Jordan Love or Kyler Murray plus for him was ridiculous. I traded my one Caleb Williams share in a single quarterback league. I was able to trade Caleb Williams for Drake May and Josh Jacobs. And everyone was like, why would you do that? Because Josh Jacobs is more valuable than Caleb Williams in a single quarterback league. And then I got a rookie quarterback, Drake May, who could be Josh Allen on top of it. Took a ceiling swing. And now I feel great because I traded Josh Jacobs for a first, Zamir White, and Brandon Cooks. And now I'll probably be able to trade Brandon Cooks and Zamir White for something. And I'm going to be able to sell this awful dynasty team maybe. I don't know. But either way, Caleb Williams, I'm sure he'll get better from here. But we should have been pumping our brakes and expecting a slow breakout from the beginning. We were here on Wake and Take. Again, I think it'll come. I think it'll be fine. Okay? But, we've got to keep this in mind. You can't put rookie quarterbacks ahead of proven studs. Ahead of Kyler Murray and Jordan Love was asinine. I mean, like, come on. So we're soft victory lapping that. We're soft victory lapping it. I still think that Caleb Williams will be fine. I still think Caleb Williams will be fine this season. Okay? But it's going to take some time. And this offense right now is going to be putrid. And I feel awful because I drafted a lot of DeAndre Swift. Wake and Take best ball leagues. I'm in last place in both of them, really, because of DeAndre Swift. I have no running back depth. I really kind of like I got Bijan in both of them. And then so Breece Hall was my RB2 because I just kind of punted there. And man, my running back room is hurting in those Wake and Take best ball leagues right now. I'm not putting up any point in those. It's really sad. I'm not going to lie. And a big part of that is because Caleb Williams isn't doing shit. I thought that DeAndre Swift would at least get receptions, which he is, 4 receptions in this game. But 14 carries for 18 yards is abysmal. 1.3 yards per carry. It's awful. It's awful. So anyway, guys, that is one takeaway per NFL team. We made it through, guys. We made it through. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Twitter. Tweet at me. I don't care. We've already gone for an hour and 15, so I don't feel like hopping into the chat too much. I always appreciate you guys. I really do. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow looking at the waiver wire, so make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe and turn on that bell so you get notified when we go live. This is our week 2 takeaways. Tomorrow, we'll be back at 10 a.m. Eastern on the Player Profiler YouTube with the waiver wire. You all have a magnificent Monday. Enjoy the Falcons' victory tonight, by the way. I need to get this on camera. The Falcons will beat the Philadelphia Eagles. They will. It's going to be awesome. Bijan Robinson's going to look like a stud. Jalen Hurts is going to turn the ball over at least 2 times. The Falcons are going to win. Let's go Atlanta, baby. Get ready for that. Have a magnificent Monday, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Peace.